There we go. Well, we've all seen the news. It seems like every day there's a new story about gun control. That story is either about why new gun control is needed, what it is, or why that new gun control was turned down. The truth is, most new gun control is The truth is, most new gun control laws are voted down shortly after they are proposed. These laws are all voted down for the same reason. Congress doesn't want to add conflict over the issue. That issue is the country is divided into pro-gun and anti-gun supporters. Many people feel that new gun control laws are required for safety of themselves and their families. Other people feel that guns are a given right that cannot be taken away and will carry that with them forever. The third party is the group that realizes that change can be good, but may not be necessary. They just want to encourage a respect for guns and not be driven to one of the other two sides. This speech will cover a few things: what the current gun laws are, how they are enforced, and what needs to be changed to make things more effective. Many people who want more gun control laws do not know the current laws. There are laws in place that should cover the bases well, at least in theory. There are also a number of things that are in place that are not considered law. These are organizations or groups that are dedicated to one side of the issue. The best way to describe how these things matter is in a timeline. Sorry, that's already up there. In 1791, the Second Amendment was ratified. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This has been a main point of the highly pro-gun group. They take every word of this to heart and refuse to see how it is outdated. In 1871, the National Rifle Association was founded. Union soldiers Colonel William C. Church and General George Wingate founded the NRA to promote and encourage rifle shooting on a scientific basis. Civil War General Ambrose Burnside, who was also the former governor of Rhode Island and U.S. Senator, serves as the organization's first president. The NRA not only leads the charge in lobbying against gun laws, but also to try and propose new compromises between pro and anti-gun Americans. 1934 saw the passing of the National Firearms Act. Brought about by the lawlessness and rise of gangster culture during Prohibition, Franklin D. Roosevelt hoped this act would eliminate fully automatic weapons like machine guns from America's streets. Other firearms, such as short-barreled rifles and shotguns, parts of guns like silencers, as well as other gadget-type firearms hidden in canes, were also targeted. All gun sales and gun manufacturers were slapped with a $200 tax. No small amount for Americans mired in the Great Depression. That would be like a tax of $2,525 today on each firearm, and all buyers were required to fill out the paperwork subject to Treasury Department approval. 1938 brought about the Federal Firearms Act. Congress aimed this law at those involved in selling and shipping firearms through interstate or foreign commerce channels. Anyone involved in the selling of firearms was required to obtain a federal firearms license from the Secretary of Commerce. They were also required to record the names and addresses of everyone they sold guns to, and were prohibited to selling those people who were convicted of certain crimes or lacked a permit. 1968 sees the Gun Control Act. The assassination of John F. Kennedy, who was killed by a mail-order gun that belonged to Lee Harvey Oswald, inspired this major revision to federal gun laws. The subsequent assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and presidential candidate Robert Kennedy fueled its quick passage. License requirements were expanded to include more dealers, and more detailed record keeping was expected of them. Handgun sales over state lines were restricted. The list of persons dealers could not sell to grew, included those convicted of felonies, those found mentally incompetent, drug users, and more. The act also defined persons who were banned from possessing firearms. This key element of the bill outlawed mail-order sales of rifles and shotguns. Up until this law, mail-order consumers only had to sign a statement that they were over 21 years of age for a handgun and 18 for a rifle or shotgun. It also detailed more persons who were banned from possessing certain guns, including drug users, and further restricted shotgun and rifle sales. The The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms was created in 1972. Enforcement of the Gun Control Act was given to the Department of the Treasury's Alcohol, Tobacco, and Tax Division of the Internal Revenue Service. The organization replaced tax with firearms, nearly doubled in size, and became the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. 1986 saw the passing of two laws. The first was the Law Enforcement Officers Protection Act. This made it illegal for anyone to manufacture or import body-piercing ammunition or cop killer bullets, which are capable of penetrating bulletproof clothing. The Firearm Owners Protection Act eased restrictions on gun sellers and the sale of some guns. It also imposed additional penalties for persons using a firearm during certain crimes and persons with robbery or burglary convictions who are illegally shipping guns. 1990 saw the Crime Control Act. It directed the Attorney General to develop a strategy for establishing drug-free schools, I'm supposed to say that, that's gun-free school zones, including criminal penalties for possessing or discharging a firearm in a school zone. It also outlawed the assembly of illegal semi-automatic rifles or shotguns from legally imported parts. In 1994, the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act required a 5-day waiting period and background check before a licensed gun importer, manufacturer, or dealer can sell or deliver a handgun to an unlicensed individual. It also required a new national instant criminal background check system, run by the FBI, to replace the waiting period by November 30th, 1998. The new background check system will apply to all firearms and will allow checks to be done over the phone or electronically, with results returned immediately in most cases. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, commonly referred to as the Assault Weapons Ban. This bill banned the possession, importation of new semi-automatic assault weapons and large-capacity ammunition feeding devices, or magazines, for civilian use, as well as criteria for semi-automatic assault weapons that fall under the ban provided, as well as a list of 19 specific firearms. It also prohibits juveniles from possessing or selling handguns and directs the Attorney General to evaluate proposed and existing state juvenile gun laws. In response to the 2013 massacres, including the killing of 20 first graders in Newtown, Connecticut, and 12 moviegoers in Aurora, Colorado, President Barack Obama introduced proposals to tighten gun control laws. His plan includes universal background checks for gun sales, the reinstatement and strengthening of the assault weapons ban, limiting ammunition magazines to a 10-round capacity, and other measures. On September 10th, voters threw out of office Democrats John Morse and Angela Guerin for their support of the recently enacted gun control laws that mandate background checks on private gun sales and limit magazines to 15 rounds. The election drew national attention not only for the ouster of the officials, but also for the influx of money on both sides, both from the National Rifle Association and New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, a gun control advocate. As you can see, okay, this would work now.
It went.
Oh, sweet. It went twice now. Okay, we'll just get there eventually. As you can see, we have plenty of laws in place. The problem that we are seeing is that these laws are not enforced properly. A 2013 report from Americans for Gun Safety reveals that 20 of the 22 national gun laws are not enforced because they require action by the justice system. According to the U.S. Department of Justice data, only 2% of federal gun crimes were actually prosecuted, and 85% of those cases were crimes of possession. That means the people illegally selling or transporting guns are almost never being charged under the current firearms laws. Even though the U.S. Attorney's Office is responsible for prosecuting federal crimes, state officials should not turn a blind eye towards them. However, when it comes to guns, they frequently do. One of the reasons that many state laws are less restrictive, is that many state laws are less restrictive than federal laws. This is the case in Minnesota, particularly as it pertains to firearms laws designed to keep guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. It's the fact that these laws are not enforced that makes a lot of people feel uneasy. That feeling makes them want more laws, even when they are not needed. These people wanting new laws do not know the ones that they want already exist. On one hand, Congress wants to pass new laws to help these people, but they know they would just be rewriting laws that are already there. People wanting guns do have some valid points. The Second Amendment is not an unlimited right, okay, my outline here got messed up. Anti-gun people do have some valid points. The Second Amendment is not an unlimited right to own guns. They argue that even though we have the right to bear arms, that right is not unlimited. Enacting gun control laws, such as mandatory safety features, would reduce the number of accidental gun deaths. Civilians, including hunters, should not own military-grade firearms or firearm accessories. A majority of adults, including gun owners, support common-sense gun control, such as background checks, bans on assault weapons, and bans on high-capacity magazines. The majority of people on both sides of this argument agree with the last three reasons, actually. Pro-gun people also have some pretty unrealistic points, such as having more gun controls would reduce gun deaths. Okay. Having more laws would only reduce the number of non-criminal deaths. Okay, non-criminal gun deaths. Guns are rarely used in self-defense. Guns may not be used in self-defense, but because the presence they have in a situation usually deters crimes before they actually happen. Legally owned guns are frequently stolen and used by criminals. This is true, but having more gun laws won't change this. It will only make it harder to legally acquire firearms, and criminals will still find a way. Pro-gun people also have some pretty stubborn points. They like to try to argue that gun control laws infringe upon the right to self-defense and deny people a sense of safety. They do not infringe on the right to defend yourself, or even the right to own guns. They just try to minimize the likelihood that guns will get into the wrong hands. Gun control laws, such as background checks and micro-stamping, are an invasion of privacy. Background checks are designed, to make sure guns do not get into the wrong hands. They also have some good points. Gun control laws do not deter crime. Gun ownership deters crime. A November 26th study, 2013 study found that between 1980 and 2009, assault weapon bans did not significantly affect murder rates at the state levels, and states with restrictions on the carrying of concealed weapons had higher gun-related murders. States with the largest increases in gun ownership also have the largest drops in violent crime. Gun control laws will not prevent criminals from obtaining guns or breaking laws. Of 62 mass shootings in the United States between 1982 and 2012, 49 of the shooters used legally obtained guns. Despite Chicago's ban on gun shops, shooting ranges, assault weapons, and high-capacity magazines, in 2014, Chicago had 2,089 shooting victims, including at least 390 murders. Police in Chicago between 2001 and March 2012 recovered approximately 50,000 guns. The guns came from all 50 states, and more than half came from outside of Illinois. More gun control is not needed. Education about guns and gun safety is needed to prevent accidental gun deaths. Guns don't kill people, people kill people, and people need more gun education and mental illness screenings to prevent massacres. The Shooting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute stated, whether in the field, at the range, or in the home, a responsible and knowledgeable gun owner is rarely involved in a firearms accident of any kind. The Second Amendment was intended to protect gun owners of all. Yep, I lost this. Anyway. I guess I do not really pick one side or the other, but I lean towards the pro-gun side. What I think is needed is for the existing gun control laws to be enforced to their full extent. Prosecuting 2% of gun crimes is not making anyone safer. Gun control laws could be quite effective if as much effort was put into enforcement as was writing the laws. I also agree with more of the pro-gun points than the anti-gun ones. I particularly like the ones about needing to be educated and how having educated citizens who are armed reduce violent crime. One law I think needs to be passed is to make mental health checks part of the gun buying process. This will not stop criminals from obtaining guns, but will reduce the chances of new criminals surfacing. I have been raised around guns and have a healthy respect for them. I know not everyone is lucky to have that, but that is an unfortunate part of the problem. Thank you.
How many songs are you looking